Hi, my name is Amy Weber. I am co founder of Speak, Learn, and Play in Brooklyn. I am a child therapist and a parent coach, and I am so happy to be with you today. We are talking about belonging this month at Speak, Learn, and Play. And today I want to specifically talk about belonging beginning at home and how to help your neurodivergent child feel safe, seen, and wanted. This is a big topic. I want to start with this idea. Before kids can feel confident in the wider world, they need to feel deeply accepted at home. That does not mean that home is always peaceful. It does not mean that everyone is skipping through the kitchen, holding hands while making organic muffins and using calm voices. If that is happening in your house, congratulations. And also, please teach the rest of us your secrets, like bedtime negotiations worthy of a courtroom drama, and at least one person crying because their socks feel wrong. Belonging does not mean that everything is easy. Belonging means you are still one of us even when things are hard. That message is incredibly powerful for all children, but especially powerful for neurodivergent children who often spend a lot of their day feeling like they are being corrected, redirected, compared, misunderstood, asked to work harder at things that seem to come more naturally to everybody else. So today, I want to talk about what belonging really means, why behavior often gets louder when kids feel misunderstood, and how parents can create a home environment that becomes a kind of emotional base camp. Not perfect, not conflict free, but safe enough to return to. So, what does belonging really mean for neurodivergent kids? When we talk about belonging, we are not just talking about being included. A child can be physically included and still feel deeply alone. They can be sitting at the dinner table and feel like the problem in the room. They can be in the classroom, on the soccer team, at the birthday party, in the family photo, and still feel like I am different in a way that people do not like. For neurodivergent kids, belonging often means something very specific. It means you understand that my brain and body work differently. You do not see my needs as an inconvenience. You can help me without humiliating me. You can hold limits without making me feel like I am bad. You still like me when I am struggling. And that last one is huge. So many neurodivergent kids know what it feels like to be too much, too sensitive, too rigid, too loud, too distracted, too intense, too emotional, too picky, too argumentative, too silly, too slow, too fast, too everything. And over time, kids can start to confuse I don't fit the mold with I am hard to love. And those are not the same thing. Not fitting the mold means a child may need different supports, different pacing, different explanations, different sensory tools, different transitions, different expectations. Not feeling loved is something much deeper. That is when a child begins to believe who I am is disappointing. And that belief can sit quietly under a lot of behavior, sometimes under anger, under avoidance, under perfectionism, under silliness, sometimes under I don't care, which often means I care so much that I cannot survive showing you. Our job as adults is not to convince kids that they are easy. Our job is to help them know they are worthy. Why does behavior get louder when kids feel misunderstood? Let's talk about this because often when a child is struggling, the behavior is the loudest thing in the room. The yelling, the refusing, the arguing, the melting down, the storming away, the "you're the worst parent ever," which, by the way, is rarely a child's most accurate psychological assessment. Usually it means I am overwhelmed and you are nearby. When kids feel misunderstood, their behavior often gets louder because they are trying to communicate something that they do not yet have the skills, language, or nervous system capacity to say calmly. A child who feels misunderstood might be trying to say, "This is too loud. I don't know what you want from me. I can't shift gears that fast. I feel embarrassed. I think I'm in trouble. I'm scared I'm disappointing you. I need help, but I don't want to need help. I feel out of control. I don't know how to come back from this." But what comes out is, "No, you can't make me. I hate this. Leave me alone." Or the child hides under the table, throws the pencil, refuses to get in the car, screams about the wrong plate, or suddenly becomes a tiny attorney arguing the exact definition of the word now. Behavior is communication. It is not always polite communication. It is not always convenient communication. And it is almost never well-timed communication. Nobody has a meltdown at 2 p.m. on a quiet Saturday when everyone is hydrated and emotionally available. No, it happens when you are late. Someone is hungry, the dog is barking, there is a school form due, and you are holding a leaky water bottle. That is why belonging at home matters so much. Because if a child already feels like they are the family problem, then every correction can feel like a rejection. Every limit feels like proof. Every frustrated sigh can land as, "See, I'm too much." Now, this is important. Belonging does not mean that we never correct behavior. Children still need guidance. They still need limits. They still need to learn that they cannot hit their siblings, scream in someone's face, destroy property, or speak to people in cruel ways. Belonging is not permissive parenting wearing a cozy sweater. The difference is how correction feels. Correction says, "This behavior is not okay, and I will help you learn another way." Rejection says, "You are the problem." Correction stays connected. Rejection pulls away emotionally. Correction can be firm. Rejection is shaming. Correction says, "I won't let you hit." Rejection says, "What is wrong with you?" Correction says, "You're having a hard time, and we still need to clean this up." Rejection says, "You always ruin everything." Correction says, "This behavior is telling us something." Rejection says, "You are bad." And let's be honest, parents are human beings. When your child is screaming, refusing, arguing, melting down, it is very easy for your own nervous system to go into threat mode. You may not sound like your wisest, calmest, most regulated self. You may sound like a haunted Roomba with a law degree, That does not make you a bad parent. It makes you a human being with a nervous system. And this is where awareness matters, because one of the most powerful questions we can ask ourselves is, when my child is struggling, do they experience me as their safe person or their disappointed audience? That question is not meant to shame you. It is meant to orient you. Because sometimes our kids are already drowning in the feeling of failure, and we are standing on the shore giving notes on their swimming technique. In hard moments, they do not only need instruction, they really need a lifeline. I like to think about the idea of home as a base camp. Base camp is not the whole adventure. It is not where every challenge disappears. It is not where the weather is always perfect. Base camp is where you come back to recover. It is where you regroup. It is where people know your name, your gear, your limits, and your strengths. It is where someone says, that climb was rough. Let's get you warm, fed, and steady before we figure out what happens next. For neurodivergent kids, the wider world can feel like one giant mountain climb. School may require them to manage noise, social rules, transitions, handwriting, executive functioning, emotional regulation, confusing instructions, group work, unexpected changes, and the constant pressure to act like you are fine. By the time they get home, they may fall apart. And parents often wonder, why do they hold it together for everyone else and then lose it with me? Sometimes the answer is because you are safe. Not always, of course. Sometimes after school meltdowns are about depleted capacity, hunger, masking fatigue, unmet needs. But often kids fall apart where their nervous system believes they will not be abandoned. That does not make the behavior easy to handle, but it can help us understand it differently. Home as base camp means we want our child to feel, I can come back here when the world has been too much. I can be supported without being shamed. I can make mistakes and repair. My family sees more in me than my hardest moments. And all of that is belonging. So, I've got a few practical tips. Number one, use belonging language. The first practical tool is to use belonging language, especially in hard moments. This means saying things that remind your child very clearly, you are still connected to us. For example, you're having a hard time and you're still part of this family. I love you and I won't let you hit. This is a rough moment. We will get through it together. You are not bad. This behavior is telling us something. You're safe. I'm here. We can figure this out. Now, these statements do not magically fix everything. They are not parenting spells, though I would absolutely buy that book. But they do something important. They reduce threat. They communicate, I am not leaving you alone with this feeling. For kids who are sensitive to rejection, shame, or failure, that message matters. Practical tip number 2, create tiny rituals of connection. Belonging is built through repetition, not one perfect vacation, not one dramatic heart to heart, not one magical Saturday where everybody suddenly has insight and uses their coping skills. Belonging is built through tiny, repeated signals of connection. That might look like a special goodbye phrase, a bedtime check in, pancakes every Sunday, a 2-minute cuddle on the couch after school, a song in the car, a silly handshake, having tea together, a nightly high and low, a note in their lunchbox, a predictable moment where your child does not have to perform, explain, improve, or earn your warmth. For neurodivergent kids, predictable connection can feel especially regulating. It tells the nervous system, this is a place for me. And that ritual does not have to be elaborate. In fact, please do not create a ritual that requires craft supplies and emotional stamina and a laminated chart unless that brings you great joy. Tiny counts. Consistent counts. Warm is what counts. Practical tip number 3, we want to try to separate the child from the behavior. This is one of the biggest belonging builders. Instead of saying, you are being rude, try, that came out in a hurtful way. Instead of, you are so difficult, try, this is feeling really hard right now. Instead of, you never listen, try, your brain is having a hard time shifting to what I asked. Instead of, you're bad, try, you are not bad. This behavior is telling us something. That does not excuse the behavior. It explains that the behavior is something to understand and work on, not proof that the child is defective. And that distinction matters. A child who believes I did something wrong can repair. A child who believes I am wrong often collapses into shame or fights back to survive the feeling. Practical tip number 4, build in repair. Repair is one of the most important parts of family belonging. Every family has hard moments. Every parent says things they wish they could rewind. Every child has moments that are not exactly scrapbook material. The goal is not to avoid rupture forever. Is impossible. The goal is to build repair into the culture of your home. Repair sounds like, that got really big earlier. I'm sorry I yelled. I was frustrated, but I should not have used that tone. You were having a hard time, and I want us to talk about what you needed. I love you. We still need to talk about what happened, but I want you to know that we are okay. Repair teaches kids that relationships can bend and come back. It teaches them that mistakes are survivable. And for neurodivergent kids who may experience shame intensely, repair can be incredibly healing. Practical tip number 5, we want to notice strengths out loud. Not just their achievements, not just their grades, trophies, moments of compliance. We want to notice their character strengths. You noticed that wasn't fair. You kept trying even when it was frustrating. You are really creative with how you solve problems. You care deeply. You have a strong sense of justice. You remembered something really important. You asked for a break instead of exploding. That takes a lot of effort. You repaired with your brother. That was brave. So many neurodivergent kids hear a lot about what needs work. Their flexibility, their tone, their volume, their transitions, their focus, their social skills, their frustration tolerance, their handwriting, their ability to find both shoes within the same calendar year. They also need to hear what is good, strong, interesting, funny, thoughtful, brave, and beautiful about who they are. Strength naming helps a child build an identity that is much bigger than their struggles. It says, I see the whole you. So, as we close, I want to come back to the core message. Belonging begins at home, not because home is perfect, not because parents always know what to say, and not because neurodivergent kids never struggle there. It's because home can be the place where a child learns I am not too much to love. My hard moments are not the whole story. My needs make perfect sense. My family may correct me, but they do not reject me. I am wanted here. And that kind of belonging becomes portable. Over time, kids begin to carry it with them into classrooms, friendships, activities, and the wider world. They begin to believe, even when this is hard, I still have a place. I still have people. I still have me. So this week, I invite you to notice one small place where you can send that message. Maybe it is a phrase. Maybe it's a bedtime ritual. Maybe it's repairing after a hard moment. Maybe it is naming a strength your child does not yet see in themselves. Because belonging is not built in the big perfect parenting moments. It is built in the tiny, repeated messages. I see you. I get you. You are still one of us. And I am not going anywhere. Thank you so much for being with us today, and we'll see you soon.